Good morning to my Foundations of Algebra students. We're going to go over section 9.4, second day, solving quadratic equations by factoring. So you should have done the first video, 9.4. And here we're going to learn how to factor first. We've already done this, actually. This just puts two things together. The lesson from 2 days ago that you should have worked on the last 2 days in the video and the homework, and the lesson that we're going to look at today that we actually have done a couple weeks back, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So first we're going to factor using the GCF. One of the things that we want to recognize here is that one of the sides has to be set equal to 0. So we do have this set equal to 0 right here. Now we're looking for the greatest common factor, so we're looking at these two terms, and what we have done in the past is we know that this is a to the first, so we can factor out an a out of both of these. So if we factor out a, what we're left with is a plus 5. Now if you were to distribute that back in, a times a is a squared, and a times 5 is 5a. We would get back to the original, but now what we have are two things that we did yesterday. We have one factor, a, and one factor, a plus 5, and we're going to use the zero product property. We're going to set each of these equal to 0. So one of the solutions is a is 0, and the other solution is a is negative 5. Okay, and how did I get negative 5? I subtracted 5 from both sides. We're at the point, of course, where I think you can solve many of those equations just by doing the work in your head. You don't have to show every step. If you need to, feel free to, but you should be at a point where you're building towards Algebra 2. Now notice this second example that we have, we don't have it set equal to 0, it's equal to 2x. So we have to make sure one of the sides is set equal to 0. To do that, I'm going to subtract 2x from each side, and we get 4x squared minus 2x equals 0. Okay, so now I can look at this and I can factor out the greatest common factor. A little bit different than the last one, we now have coefficients here in front. We have some numbers. So we have to look at 4 and 2 and decide what number can go into both 4 and 2. What's the greatest common factor? Well, it can never be bigger than the smallest number, so 2 does go into 4, so 2 is part of the greatest common factor. And then just like the last time, we have an x squared and an x, so we can bring out 1x because that's the most we'd be able to bring out of both of those terms. Now, 2x times 2x would get us 4x squared. 2x minus 1, if we take 2x times negative 1, we'll get negative 2x. So that's our factoring with the greatest common factor, and we did factor with the greatest common factor in the past. Now you take both of those factors, you set 2x equal to 0, and you set 2x minus 1 equal to 0. We divide by 2, and we would get x equals 0 as a solution. Sometimes the computer doesn't keep up with the pen. And then here we would add 1 and then divide by 2, so we should have x equals 1/2. Now of course we could do it a step at a time. We could add 1 to x equals 1, then divide by 2. We'd get that, but I think you should be able to get to that step in your head at this point in your algebra. Boy, that will not let me square that off. There we go. All right. Now, if you want to go ahead and pause the video throughout this and try these, you can go ahead and try to factor this one and then solve it. We should be getting to the point where we should be able to do that. We're going to do 8 examples today. That will be our goal. But I'm not going to take too much time because if the video gets too long, I have difficulty uploading it. So 0 equals, we're going to take out 14x here, and we would have x plus 2. So those are our factors. 14x was the greatest common factor that came out. We're going to set 14x equal to 0. We're going to set x plus 2 equal to 0. If we divide by 14, we get x equals 0. If we subtract 2, remember to set them equal to 0. If we subtract 2, we get negative 2. So our answers are 0 and negative 2. Both of those will make the problem go to 0 if we were to substitute back in. All right, this one again, it's not set equal to 0, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. Now, it doesn't matter which side is equal to 0. So we've seen that already in a couple of the examples. But this time, the left side is equal to 0, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to factor out a 2x out of both of these. And 2x times x plus 3. Now again, 2x, it needs to be the greatest common factor that we're factoring out to solve this. So we get 2x equals 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. We divide by 2, x equals 0. We subtract 3, x is negative 3. All right, hopefully you're catching on. Go ahead again, pause the video, do these last 4 problems that you see on your guided notes. Now, if you haven't printed your guided notes for this one, that's okay. You can just be doing notes on notebook paper. So, part E. Go ahead and make sure that it's set equal to 0 first. You can't solve this one. You can't set these equal to 0 until you subtract 5a from each side. So then we get 15a squared minus 5a equals 0. And we'll factor out a 5a. So 5a times a minus 5 equals 0. Set each factor equal to 0. 5a is one of the factors. A minus 5 is one of the factors. We divide by 5. We get a equals 0. That is one of the solutions. We add 5. We get a equals 5. That's the other solution. Okay. So F. 0 equals 15. Ooh, we cannot take out 15. That's too big. 15 won't go into 25, so we're going to take out 5. 5 is a number that will go into both 15 and 25. Again, we're going to take out an x. So this one's a little bit different. The GCF isn't one of the numbers, and you're going to see that in the homework. We get 3x plus 5. Those are our two factors. 5x equals 0, 3x plus 5 equals 0. Make sure you set both of the factors equal to 0, then solve. If we divide by 5, we get x equals 0, one of our solutions. Here we would subtract 5 and then divide by 3, so the answer is negative 5/3. Now, you can do the work, make sure that that's correct, but I think you should be able to get there on your own in your head at this point. Okay, this one, 6 won't go into 9, so figure out what number will. Pause the video again. If I'm going too fast, you can take time to try these. 3 and s will go into both of these. We get 2s minus 3. Set each factor equal to 0. 3s equals 0. Divide by 3, s equals 0. 2s minus 3 equals 0. Add 3, divide by 2, and s is 3 over 2. This one, first, make sure it's set equal to 0, so we're going to add 18x to each side. 0 equals 9x squared plus 18x. We are going to factor out 9 and x. And we get x plus 2. 9x equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. Divide by 9, x equals 0. Subtract 2, x is negative 2. Okay, so we should have a worksheet on factoring the GCF and solving. That one you'll find in your folder as well.